Hey, hobby friends, your old pal Bo here, the only man on YouTube with a face for radio and a voice for print, coming at you today with a book review. Kind of unusual for me, I know. Mostly I do minis, sometimes I do lore, sometimes I do general role playing, but today we're going to do a review of the Sandy Petersen's Guide to Lovecraftian Mythos, written by Sandy Petersen and published by Chaosium Games in 2015, I think. This book is still around. You can find it on eBay for like 24 bucks. I bought this from Chaosium on their website um, a while back, and I want to get around reviewing it because I've really done a kind of a deep dive into it the last couple days. And I'm here to tell you why you should consider this book, even if you're not playing Call of Cthulhu. In fact, you're playing any game, regardless of system or setting, as long as it deals with the supernatural, occult, otherworld, or extra dimensional beings. This book's written by Sandy Petersen, his own self. If you've known Sandy Petersen, he was one of the principal writers and inventors of the Call of Cthulhu game and mythos. An all-around great guy, and the guy who's got a channel here on YouTube, and it is highly underrated as an author. And if you ever watch his channel, he does great stuff. He does pop culture stuff. He sort of analyzes things from a Call of Cthulhu perspective. Amazing channel. Check it out. Um, Sandy Petersen's Guide to Lovecraftian Horrors. This book is completely system agnostic and rules and stat line free. It's written as a sort of a field guide, some like an ornithologist might have to bird watching, and but it's got, again, system agnostic, stat line free. If you're playing Traveler, you want to bring in some beings from otherworldly dimensions, here's your Bach rug. It's well illustrated. It kind of like the old Dungeons and Dragons, like monster manuals. It has entries on ecology, habitat, distribution, life habits, and how to distinguish it for your players. So from a DM, GM perspective, it's great to have a book like this because it has descriptions that you can read to your players, things to mine for lore and game building. It also has the typical is the size of the monster compared to your investigator, your player, whatever kind of game you're playing, right? Yog Shoggoth, and you don't have to use the names, but it does give you a lot of stuff. I mean, this is pure nightmare fuel. It's Halloween. If you're gonna run a horror game, to have a picture you can show your players without using too much. A book that a lot of your players probably don't know anything about. Star Spawn of Cthulhu. Again, I paid for this. I bought it from Chaosium. I think it was about $25. It's available on eBay. Tons of copies of it for going around that price with free shipping. Or if you don't want to give Chaosium money for any reason, or if it is available again from their website. I paid for this myself. What do I like about the book? I like that it's written from an everyman's perspective, right? It's written from the perspective of like a bird watcher. If you're going out to look for these things, in the introduction it says these are not animals that you're going to find at your local zoo. You're not going to find these in any game preserve in nature. You don't have the benefit of going to a game trail and setting up a game camera and finding these things as you would normal forest creatures. It does have some, written from some modern perspective. It has references all the way into the 80s, maybe later. It's if you've written a lot of textbooks or scientific papers, things in like a APA format that require citations. There are tons and tons of citations. It'll have the author's name and year, uh, random samples. It's got a lot of real science vocabulary, jargon, and feel mixed in with it. If you've done any kind of research, if you've read meta-analyses, if you've read scientific papers, then this is going to seem very familiar to you. At the same time, it's very easy to read, and it does have a very extensive bibliography. Recommended reading. Most of these are books that are published by Chaosium Games. And not all of this is fake. If I have any things I don't like about the book, there are a few meta references where the author actually refers to, in the first person, refers to the Call of Cthulhu role playing game. To me, that kind of breaks immersion. I don't like when things are too self referential like that. But it's easy to pass, easy to overlook intentionally. And if there's a really cool algorithm for identifying the monsters, this is something that'd be good for players. Sort of yes, no, algorithmic questions to get to you to the monster that you want to read about. Is it invisible? If yes, go to 2. If no, go to 3. So go to question 2. Is the noise it emits weird piping or whistling? Then it's a flying polyp. No, then it's a tittering laugh. It's a star vampire. So there's about 160 pages worth of monsters. Great for Halloween. The only problem is, again, I don't consider this a problem. You're going to have to stat these monsters out for your own system. Some systems are better at this than others. Some systems have simple rule, maybe not simple rules, but at least rules for making monsters. Or you can reskin an existing monster. If you've got rules set out for, carnivorous ape, and you can give it extra arms and extra attacks, and you've got Gug, right? And so if I can get off a little bit, I'm kind of known for being tangential in my videos. Role-playing is not an easy mode, right? To use a book like this well and to use it in a system outside of Call of Cthulhu, you're going to have to do a little bit of monster building and do it yourself. But this is exactly the kind of role-playing game I like to play. Sit down with the rules, determine the size of the creature, determine the speed of the creature, determine the strength of the creature, then its strengths, its weaknesses, its attacks. I mean, look, you've got a giant Nor. A Nor is like 3 times the size of a man, and so obviously he's going to be easier for the players to hit because he's bigger. And it looks like he's got at least 1 melee attack with the sword, and he might have a grappling attack with his tail. Plus, he's got 4 arms. What a great big bad, or at least mid bad. He could be as intelligent as you want. He could be sentient. He could exist under the ocean. He could exist in between dimensions. This is the kind of things that I'm exploring both as a role-playing game player and as a GM. Why go out and buy a module when you can spend time diving through a book like this? Again, it's a real treasure at $25 and 128 pages, including the bibliography, to dive through on a Saturday afternoon and read about a monster that you might want to have in your game and think about its ecology, its distribution, its life habits, its reproductive cycles, its feeding, and try to find a way to play it into your game, whether it be a modern adventure, whether you've got something like a serpent person living in the sewer, or something like ooh, like a Yith in your spaceship, or you encounter a Yith spaceship. Um, Use your imagination and fill these out. I mean, if you're trying to do a horror game for the Halloween season, I can't think of a better thing to do, a better way to enjoy it. Again, regardless of your system, regardless of your game, than to um, introduce a monster like this, pure nightmare fuel. And look at this Lovecraftian version of a ghast. It's a third, maybe almost twice as big as a person. And look at these great pictures. The whole book is just filled with art like this. Um, Lots of references. I have been wanting to include some of this stuff in my game for a while. I have just been, again, like everybody else, life gets in the way. As far as my progress on the month of October, I have made almost none. I've got my Octorilla 99% primed. I might have to go in there with a brush and some brush on some primer just to get it down in the cracks. I've got the Gug mostly ready. I might fill in with some green stuff. It really depends. It doesn't look, if you recall, the part that was white, it doesn't look nearly as bad now that it's been primed. The problem I have with metal minis is that they seem to just suck up the primer. They're not really porous, but it just seems that it takes two or three times as many coats to get good coverage on a metal mini as it does a plastic mini. Of course, it also doesn't help that they're way bigger. Hopefully, I'll have this guy zenithal and maybe slap chop today. The Gug too. The Gug is actually, and the other problem with metal minis is that you touch them at all and the paint just wants to flake off. That's why a lot of people will seal them with a clear coat when they're done. I'll have to touch this guy up again with some a little bit more primer. The Chaos guys, again, they're going to need another more coat. These Games Workshop minis have a similar problem in that they've got so many details. It's hard to get the primer in every nook and cranny without you don't want to lose any detail. I've been using the AK Interactive Black Primer. It's like $12 a bottle at any good hobby store. Maybe able to find it online. Cool thing about this primer is it kind of goes on matte when it's on the first couple coats, and then as it builds up some very thin layers, it gets a more matte finish. Pardon me, more of a gloss finish or less matte finish. It goes on very, very matte when it's thin, and that's good because it goes on thin and it's pretty well self leveling. I haven't had any problems with spatter, and I haven't had to thin it at all. I just use it as on the pot. I typically do use a little bit of airbrush thinner, but I wanted to try this. I got this from my favorite hobby store in the Salt Lake Valley, MRS Hobbies in Sandy. If you're in the area, they're definitely worth a visit. They've got everything that you need for model trains, model planes, lots of Warhammer 40K and Age of Sigmar, and lots of paint from Viejo, Citadel, AK Interactive. They've got all the hobby tools, all the stuff from Excel, and all of their brand of everything from razor saws to nippers to everything in between. Again, not sponsored, but I believe in giving a plug to good companies and companies that I believe in. I didn't get any role playing in this week. My family and I went to the Great Basin National Park and saw the world's oldest trees. I mean, I had the great privilege of touching a 3,500-year-old tree. It's about a 3 mile hike in, 3 mile hike out from the parking lot. If you do go up there, it is like another world. It's way at the top of the mountain on the leeward side of those mountains. A lot of the hikers up there were very respectful, and if you ever get a chance, bask in awe of a tree that's older than just about anything you can imagine, really, in terms of human involvement. Not older than the pyramids, because I think the pyramids were 3000 BC, but a tree a tree that's been around since 1500 BC is something that really, really makes you want to ponder the significance of your life and how old things can possibly be and how far we've come. Anyway, without too much rambling, I will be around most of the day. You can contact me at bowpaintsminis@gmail.com. You can leave a comment below. You can find me on Discord. So, in sum, Sandy Petersen's Guide to Lovecraftian Horrors. Highest possible recommendation on a $25 book. There is, again, just for the three things. One, the size comparisons, a blurb about how this monster will interact with your players, some insights on how to stat it out for your game, and a really great full color painting on each page. So each entry is 2 pages. Moon beasts, all your classic Lovecraftian horrors are in there, from the Yog-Sothoth to the Nyarlathotep to the Shoggoth to the hunting horrors. You can't go wrong with this book. If you're playing anything, if you're playing something like an Event Horizon type sci-fi game, these would be perfect. If you're playing a modern investigation game, or any kind of modern game, a modern spy game, anything that would have any kind of supernatural involvement. If your game world includes the supernatural, if your game world includes magic, if your game world includes anything like that, or even things that are extra dimensional, it doesn't have to be magic. It can be things that exist between dimensions, things that exist in a quantum world, any kind of sci-fi, superhero, pretty much anything that's not mundane. If you're not playing a completely mundane game, then this is the book for you. Again, published by Chaosium, about $25. I paid for it. I'm not going to steer you wrong. If you like to play the kind of games where you have ultimate control over your game, if you are doing your own rules, I loathe to use the term homebrew, because if you're using the rules, it's not really a homebrew. But if you have your own system, regardless, give it a view. Give it a check out. Again, $25. So thanks for that. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to me for a while. If you like, leave a like. If you don't like, leave a don't like. Leave a comment. Subscribe if you like more things like this. Again, my videos are raw and unfiltered, unedited, and right to the point. We're going to do some more painting later on. I want to do more paint. I want to get these guys at least primed, or finish the primed, zenithal, and maybe do a little slap chop white, so I can get going. I haven't picked out color schemes yet. Probably red for the Corn Berserkers, because they're red. Probably some green for this duder. Probably put on some green ink and see where it goes. Maybe some green speed paints for a base coat. I don't know. He just kind of looks green to me. Maybe with brown for the fur, because he looks, is he a plant? He's got a Venus flytrap mouth. Is he a lizard? He's got scales. Is he a mammal? He's got fur, but he's got 4 arms. And then for the gorilla, the octorilla, it's going to be a natural, parrot beak, orange, yellow, purple and pink for the tentacles, and shades of brown and black for the for the gorilla portion. All right. I like to keep my videos about this length. So if you have any suggestions, again, email, comment, contact me. I want to encourage you this Halloween to be safe. We're coming up. It's one of my favorite times of the year. We did find like an heirloom pumpkin when we were out in the road. That one of the local stores was selling like the really bumpy, like cancerous pumpkins. Kind of hard to find those up here in the city, but maybe I'll post up some pictures of that jack-o'-lantern for the holiday. And anyway, I've rambled long enough. I bid you peace. I bid you fun. I want you to play the games you want to play, enjoy the things you want to do, and screw the haters. All right, peace.